Well, welcome to the channel. If this is your first time here, it's all about the rookie card. We look at the past and present day status of the rookie card, all in an effort to better understand this hobby icon. Now, in between episodes, I typically like to do a little bit lighter topics that like prepping for the national, like we're going to do today. And I'm coming at you a little bit differently, at least my YouTube studio down here in my unfinished basement. I have been struggling for the last few years because my wife and I we built new and we moved into this house October of 2019. Well, 2020 rolled around and I had torn a tendon in my ankle and I had to have surgery on it. Well, then I had one of my children ended up getting married in 2020, so I had to gather up some monies to help with that. And then 2021 came and COVID hit, and it's one of them things where the cost of the building materials skyrocketed, and the lumber and drywall and all that kind of 3x, and it's like now is not the time to be doing home remodeling. And then 2022 came around and I had to have a hip replacement. This is something that I've been struggling with for most of my life, and good as new. This hip is much better, and definitely had to do that. But and then this year in 2023, I go to try to build up the funds to kind of start working on my basement down here, and then I had another child just recently got married. So it's like every time I try to get the kitty built up to do some remodeling down here, something life happens, right? Like it happens to most of us. And so here I am in my unfinished basement, but it's still rather functional because the room is huge. I have this way, it's about 60 feet by 25 or 30 feet wide. I mean, this is a very big room. And when I have so much plans for this room, and hopefully in 2024, we'll be able to get it done. I moved this couch. This couch was in front of the TV right over here, but I brought it this way because I had a table here where I would do a lot of my sorting. But as I started going through some of these collections, and that the background just started looking really, really messy with just boxes and cards, and the table stacks was just all over the place. So I decided to move the sorting table over there in front of the TV, and then I just brought the couch over here. And so that's what kind of inspired me just to maybe shoot a video from this angle, something a little different, and maybe, just try to get creative with my editing and stuff that I typically like to do. Today, I'm really excited. I want to talk about the National, my preparations that I've been doing for the National. And I just gave you a brief history of my medical history because all of that ties into my preparation for the National this year. That's how come I wanted to make mention of that stuff. But first and foremost, I want to address an issue, and that is those who are not going to the National. I want to speak to you for just a moment. Now, you're probably sick and tired of hearing all the hoopla about the National, and I totally get that. There's this wide variety of emotions that you're going through because you're not going to be able to go to the National. And I can tell you this, I've been there. I understand your pain. I feel you. But here's what I would like to say to encourage you. I believe that if you are not going to the National because you don't have the means to get there, it's too costly. It is costly, right? If you're doing it because, you have to sacrifice for your family, yeah, because you have to sacrifice for some responsibilities that you have, other important things, I believe that you're making a sacrifice. And I believe through that sacrifice that you're doing for your family or for whatever financial situation you might be under, I believe that sacrifice is honorable. And I totally respect that. And I totally just salute you, man, for laying yourself to the side and sacrificing for your loved ones. I think that, man, speaks volumes at least in my opinion. So hang in there, just live vicariously through us. We'll keep you in the loop and all these sorts of things, and just have fun with it. I know I did not go in 2016. I wanted to go like super bad, and I just could not go. And man, I was really bummed out about it. But I also remember that I was encouraged with the YouTube videos that I was watching. A lot of people were really bringing us into the display cases, into the crowds. It just really included us, and it just was. I felt like I was there because I was watching so much content creators filming at the National. So enjoy it that way, I suppose. And Lord willing, we'll see you next year. With that said, this will be my 7th National, and the first one was in 1998. That was my first one, and it was in Chicago, and I was just like awestruck, right? It was something that I had never experienced at that capacity, and it was just awe-inspiring. I remember that one well because of that, but also because of back in 1998, at least in the Chicagoland region, Kerry Wood was all the rave. And I had a 1997 Bowman Chrome, which was the first year that Bowman Chrome was released. But I had a 1997 Bowman Chrome refractor rookie card of Kerry Wood. And at the time, it was going for about $400 or $450, if I remember right. I should have looked it up. But I ended up taking that card to the show, and I ended up selling it. $250 is what I sold it for. And I had some trade value in there as well. Not much. It was a small card, but he also gave me some trade value as well. But $250 cash and some trade value. I was excited, and it was a great card. I wish I kind of had some regret when I sold it, but I went to that first National with not a lot of money, and that was a mistake. I just was not prepared for what I walked into. So my funds were low, and I was kind of wanting to move some stuff so I can, buy some more stuff. So that's why I ended up selling it. But I don't believe that card is worth very much today, but it was at the time. The next one after that was 2002. That one was also in Chicago. And then I didn't go to one until 2017. 2017 is when I went back to the Chicago National, met a bunch of YouTubers at the National that year. Nate Tops 85401, ended up meeting him there. Mike O, Ed Wesker Griff. That's when I started meeting, and I was watching these guys' channel, but it was kind of cool just talking with them, hanging out with them for a little bit, like I did. And then I wasn't making YouTube videos at the time, but I was inspiring too. And I would ask them questions, and we would talk about that kind of stuff. Just a great time. Really, in 2017 is when I started getting stepping my foot into the water as far as networking with other people. And that was the first time that had ever happened. 2019 was my next National. That one was in Chicago as well. And again, the networking was just growing more and more. And it wasn't until 2021, I would say, where the National started to feel more like a social event for me than it was an actual, the cards were like secondary. And that happened in 2021. 2020, obviously, we didn't have a National, right? It was we didn't have one because of COVID outbreak. But in 2021 is when my priorities switched, and it wasn't so much about cards, but more about socializing with friends and other people. 2022 was in Atlantic City. I had a fabulous time there, and really looking forward to my 7th National. And I'm looking at the calendar, and it really does appear like it seems like I am more busy with social events than I am the card event. So really going to have to keep an eye on that and balance things out as I start carving out my calendar for those days. But I wanted to talk a little bit about lessons that I've learned from going to the national over the years. And of course, I had mentioned some health issues that I've had, and I really learned some lessons the hard way. The first one being that the national in 2019 is I was nursing a bad ankle, and I had a hard time. I really had a hard time because I couldn't find many places to sit down, and I was on my feet for so much on that hard cement with a damaged tendon in my ankle, if you can just picture or imagine that. And I was hobbling around in quite a bit of pain. It was to the point where I couldn't find anywhere. I was just sitting on the floor, just on the hard cement floor, just to get off my feet. Um, Not even at dealer tables were there any like extra chairs, like for dollar boxes or that type of thing, where sometimes they'll have an extra chair there so people can sit down and look through the boxes. I didn't even see much of that in 2019. So I really, really struggled. In 2021, I struggled as well, because I had a bad hip most of my life, and this thing was just bone on bone, grinding, and the pain was just excruciating in 2021. And then I ended up getting that hip replacement early in 2022. But last year at the national in Atlantic City, I would say like my biggest issue that I had was, it wasn't my ankle and it wasn't my hip. Those were surgically repaired, and they were holding up good. But on the hydration side, oh my goodness, they're just. I ended up getting a cooler, and I threw it in the trunk of my rental car. But I was parking like 4 or 5 blocks away, and I would take a couple of bottles of waters with me, maybe two or three, and then I'd have to hike into the convention center, and it wouldn't take long, and them waters were like really warm, or you can go buy one at the booth there at the National in Atlantic City, but they only had like one or two people working there, and the line was like really long, and so you would like burn an hour just to get a bottled water. And it was like, this isn't going to work, man. And it got to the point I was so hydrated at one time. I saw Scott from Big Scott 35 channel, and I saw him I was digging through some dollar boxes. He walked by and we chatted a little bit, and I saw him drinking a Gatorade, and I'm like, dude, where did you get that Gatorade? I was so parched. I was dying of thirst at that moment. And man, my man Scott hooked me up. He reached in his bag and he pulled out a bottle of Gatorade and just gave it to me. I was just, so those are, I guess, some hard lessons that I've learned, right? And so going into it this year, I'm doing some prepping, right? I'm looking at this thing like some like real life survivor skills, right? And so I did some changes, I did some research, and I ended up doing a couple of things I want to share with you. The first thing is, cannot be overstated, right? Is the shoes. I learned a lesson that in 2019 with the bad ankle and all of that, I was going with a pair of good shoes, but they were used shoes, but I learned in 2020 to get new shoes. And that was key for me, because the new shoes gave me the support I needed to make it that entire week. And I cannot underestimate the value of a new pair of shoes. And my wife, she's a marathon runner, and she burns through a pair of shoes, a pair a month is basically what she's averaging. And so, she really, we went to this one place where she gets her shoes, and they put me on this machine, and they took measurements, and they had me walk to see how my foot lands. And they did all this research on how I walk, and they referred me to the Brooks, what they call the Beast brand. And this one, it has a wider support here that gives you like maximum support. They're wide and they have full stability. And these shoes, I can walk the entire week at the National with a new pair of these babies, and it will not affect me the slightest. New shoes. Find the shoe that works best for you, right? Brooks Beast works best for me. Next thing I wanted to give you guys prepping skills was that I learned was a hiking bag. I went ahead and got the hiking bag, more importantly for this bladder that comes inside of it. This bladder holds 2 liters of liquid, and it comes with a hose. You can't see it, but there's a hose wrapped in here, and the hose kind of dangles off of your shoulder, and you can like suck on it, kind of like a straw, basically. And so that's what I was really looking for, hoping for. My son's a big hiker. He travels like all over the place to hike on these certain trails. So I was talking with him. He schooled me a little bit on hiking bags and bladders. And this one, he assured me that it doesn't, some of these bladders, they kind of like taste like rubber and they give like an aftertaste. But he was telling me like which ones to look out for so you don't have that aftertaste effect of rubber. So excited. I'll fill this up with water from my cooler in my car. I'll have some water bottles in there, and I'll just throw 3, 4, 5 water bottles in here, and I'll keep this thing refrigerated in the cooler or refrigerated in the hotel room, and I will have this ready to go. The hiking bag does have enough room in it for a day, right? I'm not going to be able to fit a week's worth of purchases in here, but for one day, it has plenty of room and plenty of pockets so that I can put some snacks and that sort of thing in there. And perhaps the biggest thing that's going to be a huge help for me is a chair. I don't know what it is, but in Chicago especially, and I haven't been to many, but in Chicago especially, there's just not a lot of chairs. And getting to a chair, you got to walk halfway. You got to walk an extremely long distance to get to that VIP room. You go to the VIP room, and it's hard to find a seat. So it's one of them things where I decided, I saw this thing advertised to me on Instagram and Facebook, and I says, you know what, that seems like a pretty good idea for the National. And that's one of these babies. It's basically a fold up stool, and they use this a lot for campsites. And you basically grab it, put your fingers in these holes, and you open it up, and it becomes a chair, literally a chair, and it holds up to 450 pounds. And the guys over at Hobby Hotline, they were making fun of me. They said that it looks like the Stanley Cup, right? But really cool little gizmo that I think I'm going to give it a try. And it fits perfectly into the front portion of my hiking bag. And I think I'm going to give it a try anyway, see how it helps me at the National. What I love about this brand is that it's square. They have a lot of different types, but many of them are like circular. The square one is going to give you more square space for your bottom. I believe it's like 2 more inches compared to the round one. And what I really like about this one, not only is it a little bit wider, but it also comes with a cushion. And you can put the cushion right in there. And now you have a padded little cushion. And that, to me, makes all the difference in the world. I sat down on this thing when I got it, and this thing is amazing. I says, this is going to definitely work. You can open it up and close it in the matter of seconds and throw this baby right inside the backpack, and let's go move on to the next table. And so that is basically some life skills, some survivor skills that I have learned from prior Nationals that, I've taken my lumps on my head and I said, man, I got to do something different here. I got to be a little bit more prepared, a little bit more proactive, and make it happen. Right. And so this is all part of the process. And this is all part of the fun of going to the National. It's an event like no other, but not only is it fun, being there, but making plans to get there. I just find the entire thing like a sports card vacation, and it's going to be a blast. And then the right? The hangover that you're going to have post national, right? Because you're going to be exhausted after the national, and that's how come I decided this week was another thing that I did differently. Being that it's in Chicago, I'm going to go ahead and I scheduled my vacation for after the week following. So I'm going to take Friday off. I'm going to put a vacation day in for Friday. And then I have Saturday, Sunday off. And then my vacation is going to start that Monday. So my vacation, I'm going to have plenty of time to recoup, plenty of time to put my cards in my system, plenty of time to make content and just be able to chop this thing up and really recover from, because I cannot just going to the national all week and walking the amount you do and then go to work on Monday is just wow, it's a lot. So those are some little life hacks that I've learned. Just wanted to share them with you. Hey, tell me what you think. What are maybe some life hacks, some situations that you've learned that you're going to try to do differently this time? And let's share a little bit of our survival tactics as we prep for the 43rd National Sports Collectors Convention. I hope to see you there. If you are, shoot me a high five, that kind of thing. And remember, not all rookie cards are created equal. Buenos nachos, muchachos.